welcome Hoosier fans to this week's edition of Assembly Call Radio, where each week we discuss the most important topics in the world of Indiana basketball. This is our 227th edition of Assembly Call Radio, and it is our 728th episode overall of the Assembly Call. Recorded on the evening of September 16th, 2021. I'm your host, Brian Tonsoni. And let's begin this edition of the Assembly Call, how we begin every edition of the Assembly Call, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment.
And Indiana is the national champion.
When it comes down, Indiana will be champion. Smart takes a shot.
The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
This week's banner moment occurred last Saturday night when the student section packed Memorial Stadium for the opening football game of the season. The students showed up early and were very engaged in the game. There are reports that students may even camp out for prime seat for this weekend's game versus Cincinnati. The Indiana student body is ready for a winner. They are ready to do their part. I walked in the game and had a huge smile on my face for the football guys to get that support, and also thinking ahead to seeing Assembly Hall being packed once again and supporting a winning basketball program. I can hear the pep band playing, the students chanting, and the balls bouncing during pregame warmups. Then Martha the mop lady can sing, the introductions can be made, and then it's time to play ball and play a winning brand of ball. It's getting closer to that time of the year. Okay, let me introduce you to my esteemed co-host for tonight. First to my left.
You'll have fun. Fun. Fun.
It's Andy Bottoms. What's your bottom line this week as we approach practice starting and the start of basketball season right in the middle of quite an interesting football season? Andy, what's your take?
Yeah, it's getting close to basketball season. I pre-ordered my copy of Blue Ribbon today, so that's usually the first that things are getting close. So you got that. You got some of these top player lists coming out that we're going to talk about. So it's getting close, but a lot of meaningful football games yet to be played, starting with this weekend. So hope that I don't know that we have any better read on IU. We spent some time talking about that last week, Coach, of kind of what we might see in the Idaho game and what we could take away from that. I don't know that we have a tremendously better idea of what this team really is all about, but I think we will after Saturday.
I was telling Chad before we got going here that I have a pretty good feeling. I think Iowa really is a top team after their play at Iowa State, and so I'm kind of on the positive side heading into this game with a full packed Memorial Stadium. And to my right, the best fill-in, the Bahamas guru of interviews himself, Chad Schwarzkopf, joins us. Chad, what's on your mind about Indiana athletics or Indiana basketball?
We just keep seeing, as you kind of teased before, about the students showing up and everything like that. And I want to talk a little bit about IU fans, the fandom and everything. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a packed rock. It's going to be very exciting to see everyone there. The student section is going to be loud and everything again. It was fantastic to see an hour before the game that they were packed. It looked like every seat was taken there. I believe at one point we saw images on social media that they had torn out a bleacher seat and everything like that. A bench was pulled up and everything. But I enjoy that excitement. I enjoy that enthusiasm. I enjoy all the energy that's going around all the sports and everything like that. And kind of carrying that over to talk basketball, since obviously this is first a basketball program, is how important that is nowadays with NIL and everything, to be supportive fans, be a big fan base, and be shown that we're a big fan base, not only to our current players. You can see behind me, I got the stickers from our Trace Jackson Davis race and Christian Lander. I've got Rob Fennessy's coming out, and I'm going to get scoops as well. So supporting these guys that are current players, but then also showing up and showing our fandom and how excited we are as fans of this sport and this team to recruits coming in. We saw some of that excitement that was created by Joel and Richie and Amanda with Noah Clowney when he came to Buffaloese and excitement, and his mom loved that and everything like that. And then to a current even recruit, Caleb Green, who the whole coaching staff was recently at some of his workouts, watching him and everything. And Rabbi did an interview with him afterwards, and he talked about going to see Hoosier Hysteria and said, I just want to see the fans. Coach has told me all the time how the fans are crazy, and I definitely want to experience that. So these kids love the big fan base. They love the active fan base. It's a generation beyond what the three of us knows that has grown up in social media and all of that, and how much attention that gets and how big that is now for NIL and everything. And it's great as us fans that our fandom and our passion can be seen. So do that. If you have a Twitter account, get out there, like everything that he has. But disclaimer here, don't DM people. Be respectful with that account. Instagram, like all their stuff. You don't have to say any words. Just there's plenty of great animated GIFs of Indiana stuff. Just throw one of those out there. Don't have to say anything negative when he goes to visit other schools or anything like that. Just throw an animated GIF of Indiana out there. Just do that kind of thing, and they'll see the fandom. They'll see how crazy we are. They see how passionate we are, and it'll result in great things for the future.
And I'm going to say, too, great to meet so many Assembly Call fans at the podcast. I see a few of them are in the chat mob talking right now. Tim on Facebook and other people. A lot of three father and son combos showing up. And that's that Indiana fan base, Chad, that you're talking about. We appreciate that quite a bit, stopping by the tailgate. And Saturday will be another chance, if you're at the game, to stop by and say hello and meet some people. So here's what we're going to cover this week. We're going to have some Hoosier headlines here in segment 1. Segment 2, Hoops and Inside the Hall collaborate each year to put out a top 25 Big Ten players. That list is out, short of the order of the top 5. We believe we know who is going to be in the top 5. We'll talk about that in segment 2. And then, of course, in segment 3, we'll answer your questions. All of that is coming up this week on Assembly Call Radio. In case you missed it in last week's Six Banner Sunday or on last week's podcast, we have a new sponsor here on the show, and it's a name that longtime listeners of the Assembly Call will recognize. Ed Fang writes one of the most reliable manuals each year on how to win your March Madness bracket pool. Plus, he's a Michigan fan, so he's always current on Big Ten hoops. So because of his hoops analysis, Big Ten connection, and friendship with Jared, Ed has joined our show a handful of times to talk Big Ten hoops and the NCAA tournament. Well, for his day job, Ed is the founder and lead analyst for The Power Rank, which he describes as, quote, sports betting with a PhD edge, end quote. He specializes in football, both college and the NFL, and delivers consistent value to help you with betting, fantasy, daily fantasy, or anything else where having predictive metrics you can trust can give you an edge. The best part, Ed's newsletter is free. And right now he's offering a special bonus when you sign up, his report on NFL quarterbacks who will fade in 2021. All you have to do is sign up for Ed's newsletter. To do so, go to thepowerrank.com/AC. That's thepowerrank.com/AC. We've recommended Ed's site even when he wasn't a paying sponsor, so we appreciate him supporting our work with this sponsorship. Ed is a good, honest guy who does good, reliable work, which isn't something always easy to find in his industry. So if sports betting is your thing, make sure you subscribe to his free newsletter, thepowerrank.com/AC. All right. Some Hoosier headlines. Matt Norlander of CBS Sports picked Indiana as a long shot for the national title pick. Other writers picked teams like Auburn, Tennessee, and Indiana being in the talk for a possible run for the national title was kind of nice. And maybe that buys some, we can just drop the negative narrative of the CBS writers and the $10 million to get worse thing. We need to drop that and just let it be, please. Big Ten Media Days are set for October 7th and 8th. Delphi Bracketology has been invited. We're going to apply for media credentials, and Indiana is scheduled on Friday the 8th. So be looking for Coach Woodson and a couple of players to represent Indiana, and also the women's program will be there on the 8th as well. October 2nd, Hoosier Hysteria is planned, and practice will be starting up soon in about 10 or 11 days. Believe the rules are still the same. It's 6 weeks out from the opening night, which is November 9th. And so that would put us September 27th, September 28th for the Hoosiers to start official practice. They're allowed 6 practices a week, 30 practices in those 42 days leading up to the opener on November 9th. Chad is going to talk here in a little bit about some updated recruiting rankings that came out today for the players who have committed to the Hoosiers. We already mentioned the top 25 will be in segment 2. 3-Man Weave has Trace as number 7 in their top 100 players. And the 3-Man Weave website, I guess that's a free advertising, but they're really good guys. And go to their website. You can learn a lot from those gentlemen. And a little tease here coming up soon. The Assembly Call will be bringing you some player interviews. There are a couple things that are lined up that Jared has been working behind the scenes, and be looking out for social media and the Assembly Call Twitter account for when those interviews will be posted. I believe on the YouTube page. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be live, but they're going to be recorded, so we can make sure we edit them as needed or as the players would want. That's going to be exciting. So I think we here on the show know who that's going to be, and we think you're going to be extremely happy with that. So, Chad, I'm going to send it to you. If you would update us a little bit on those recruiting rankings that just came out hot off the presses today.
Yes. Now, those are obviously the composite rankings that have come out. And we had a few guys that moved down, a few guys that came up. Jalen Hood-Schifino, he was ranked 20 before. He bumped down to 24. Caleb Banks shifted from 82 to 94. CJ Gunn is the only current commit that had an upgrade in ranking, went from 151 to 129. And then obviously the big one that we're all kind of excited and bated breath watching for as far as recruit for that class, Noah Clowney, had quite a drop, 62 to 101. Again, obviously, we can get all tied up in these numbers about what they mean, what they exist. But I mean, once you get out of the top 20 or so, even 50, from 50 to about 150, it can pretty much be a flip of a coin. There's so many different players, so many different ways things can fall. And I think a lot of these numbers and a lot of the movement you saw in the numbers is just coming off of the COVID year that we had. A lot of players weren't seen like they normally would be, having the second evaluation period that they're currently going under now, or finishing up on. They're just seeing these players a lot more. So you're going to see these numbers moving even more than they already have. So nothing to be a shock for. I haven't even seen how that changes, obviously, because there's other rankings that get factored in, but what that changes, the ranking of the class or anything like that. But just some good to see those numbers, something you can always look at, but nothing too alarming.
And the numbers are nice to look at too, but just look at the range of the numbers. The back end moving up in CJ Gunn is pretty nice because he was the one who was deeper in the rankings. The Clowney one doesn't, bother me. When I listened to Kenya Hunter on AJ Guyton's podcast, he was talking about recruiting to the fit. And if Coach Woodson and Kenya Hunter and those guys believe that Noah Clowney is a fit for what they want to do and the type of player that they want in the program, it's not going to matter if they were 62, 82, or 102. They're going to put the full court press on Noah to try to get him to commit. So I don't – those fluctuate a lot. And as you said, people are getting seen and other people are seeing things, and it's just in flux after a year off. I think the 3 young men who have committed are going to be solid contributors. We don't know how soon. I think Hood-Schifino is going to be okay, quicker, one of the quicker ones to jump in and make an impact. But we'll see, and we always will want to see Clown. Andy, your thoughts on those any of those recruiting numbers changing?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Chad said. I think once you get past the top of the top, there's a lot of movement there. You've got as he also said, you just had guys that they might have had a high school season, but you didn't have the same AAU. So I think you're going to see a lot more volatility in those than you might normally, and they'll settle in over the course of the high school season and the and other events as you go that way. So I don't think it's much of a worry, and I think your comment about fit is a good one as well. I think we've talked about this with some of the other guys they've recruited and signed, that you're starting to get a pretty good handle on the kind of guys that they're looking to find, both from a mentality and a skill set standpoint. And I think there have been countless examples in college basketball that the recruiting rankings don't mean a lot if you get a guy who fits in really well with what you want to do. So I think as long as they feel comfortable with that, and that a guy's going to be a fit into how they want to play and envision a future for him, I think you got to put some trust in them until they prove that it shouldn't be there, and kind of go at it that way.
And so I'm going to move this to Matt Norlander. I'm a big fan of Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander, and that may be, not easy to hear for a lot of people on this in the chat mob and Indiana fans because of the comment after Archie was let go. But I'm a big fan of the Eye on podcast, CBS Eye on College Basketball podcast. I think they do good work. Obviously, they're national, and they may not know everything that we know from inside, but Matt Norlander does some good work, and it was just nice to see Indiana mentioned in a national article. And this was a betting article where the odds were 60-1, Indiana 75-1 to win. And so the writers were picking teams that were capable of making those runs. And we see that every year in the NCAA tournament, some 4, 5, 6, 7 seeds that pop and make it to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 and make a run. And it's nice to see that somebody's thinking that we have some veterans, some new components put together, and Coach Woodson is really high on Coach Woodson's impact. So, Andy, your thoughts on our guy Matt, maybe getting back into some below average graces, I guess, with Indiana fans by claiming that that's a long shot team to win the title.
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to to their latest podcast that came out today. When I was taking a walk earlier, and they were joking about, they put these out there where the parameters of this are you had to be 50-1 or less to win. And so they said, we're getting all, then people comment back like, there's no way that team's going to win. Well, that's the purpose of the exercise, is to try to identify a team that might be a little bit off the radar. So, I think it's decent publicity. And I think if you're looking for a team like that, trying to find one that's got a guy who projects to be one of the better players in the country is a good place to hang your hat if you're trying to do that. Basketball, especially at the college, stars go a long way toward their team's eventual fate. So in that regard, I think it makes some sense as to, why he would have, maybe they stood out compared to some other teams in that range that may not have as high end a guy as Trace.
I just think I get your opinion here, Chad. I just think it's nice that, for us fans who are longing for a winner, to just see some positive talk about the Hoosiers. Yes, they're 75-1 and long shot, but we know that they have a ceiling that they can reach. I think they're a second weekend NCAA tournament team at best. Or not at best, but potentially, and at least for me now, that means they're a likely tournament team, and to be in the top half easily of not easily, but they should be in the top half of the Big Ten. And if national people are seeing it, it's not just me with my crimson-colored glasses and Coach Woodson being here, and that makes me feel a little better. Chad, your thoughts about Indiana as a possible Final Four championship team from the teams that aren't thought of being there?
I think it's like you guys nailed. I think it's just great to get that national attention and that national acclimates or positivity after all the kind of beat down and fighting we had to do against those guys when we were in the coaching search and all that stuff that they were saying. So I don't know. I mean, again, these last couple months, it's just been a big old huge wedding cake, birthday cake of Indiana sweetness and joy that I've been enjoying throughout everything. And so these are just little sprinkles sitting on top of it as well. So it adds to the sweetness, sweet tooth cake that we're eating here as basketball fans. But yeah, it's nice, like you said, to hear it from someone else outside, that it's not just us pumping each other up.
Okay, so coming up on the next segment here on Assembly Call Radio, we're going to take a closer look at the rankings from Inside the Hall and UM Hoops, a combined website that puts out the top 25, which is being released this week. So stick with us here on the Assembly Call. All right, everybody. Welcome to the show. Glad you're in the chat mob. We have several people in a variety of places today. I see some fake Facebook commentary, and things of that nature. So thank you for being with us. Again, a shout out to all the people who stopped by Saturday. It's just tremendous, and Andy and Chad and Jared and Ryan. It's just awesome to hear stories, and they talk about the Bahamas and what there and how we do the show, and it's I'm fortunate to be able to be there where people can come and congregate. We do the meetup for basketball, but I get to do that because I'm able to be down there. But I'll pass that on to everyone. A lot of people are very complimentary of what we do, and so again, we'll be there Saturday morning, 7:00 in the morning. I don't expect a lot of you to be there, but we'll be setting up at 7 in the morning, breaking down about 11:15 to head into the stadium. We have breakfast burritos, donuts and pastries, and some mimosas for those of you who like those. So
how did the food go? How'd the sandwiches?
We actually made a lot of food. We had a lot left over, so I had extra meatloaf. It's really what you want is extra meatloaf for 2 or 3 days, right?
Yeah,
I was hoping to get that off, but it was great. The sandwiches were great. Joel did a good job. Joel and my wife Amy manned the grill while I'm walking around saying hello to everyone, and it was really good. The finger steaks were good. Amanda Pavelka made some finger steaks from Idaho with some homemade ranch dressing, and had a lot of it was good. That was a really good time.
Nice. And Amanda and Richie, if you guys are listening to this, I want to see next time maybe like an Twitter video of you guys as food critics, sampling the tailgating and critiquing it. I note a little palette of chutney, and I'm smelling herbs. And
service is hit or miss there. So we were thinking about doing something live and trying to figure that out, but it's just hit or miss. And when you get a full crowd around there, it's just hard to know that it'll be consistently go out. But the highlight was, and there was a traffic cone in Iowa City that ended up at our tailgate. Somehow it made it back from Iowa City with one of our people who stopped by the tailgate, and they had it painted red and white with LEO on it. And the football team had come in for a walkthrough, bust in from the hotel for a walkthrough, and then were busting back out, and they entered right by the practice fields. And so we were able to hold that up, and Coach Allen really liked it. And then we had Scott Dolson came by. He signed it. We have a lot of people are signing it, and Anthony Thompson was there and signed it as well as other people who have stopped by. Martha the Mop Lady. I actually hugged her, but her is a him, so that's kind of weird. It's a guy who runs the web page, but so my crush has kind of been shattered a little bit. But what a great dude! He got 30 tickets for kids, parents, and kids that haven't been. He was able to get people to donate those who weren't using them, and then pass them on to IU fans. So that's just a bunch of good stuff.
He's done some amazing stuff.
Fun. Yes, he has. So good times, everybody. Stop by if you can. All right. I got the list there. I'm not going to read the list I'll just tell the listeners they can go to Inside the Hall and do it. We can just pick out names and say where they're at in general. And we'll start off with who do you think the order of the top 5 between Trace, Kofi, Jaden Ivey, EJ Liddell, and Hunter Dickerson? What your order is, or who you think is going to be number 1, and we'll go from there.
All right,
let's get it going. Here we go.
Hi, this is AJ Moye. What's the only thing better than upsetting Duke in the Sweet 16? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach for the assembly call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers.
Welcome back to the assembly call. How do you keep up with the fire hose of information that comes out almost every day about IU basketball? It's crazy during the offseason, and it's about to get crazier as the season starts here in a few weeks. Well, we've got your back. We send out a free weekly email newsletter on Sunday mornings. It rounds up the most important and interesting IU basketball stories from the previous week to keep you up to date on your Hoosiers. Over 8,000 of your fellow IU fans are on the list, and we want you to be on there too. So go to join.assemblycall.com to subscribe for free right now. That's join.assemblycall.com. You can also text IU to 66866. That's IU to 66866. Okay, I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with Andy Bottoms and Chad Schwartzkopf, and we're talking IU basketball. I know it's the middle of football, but it's always time for IU basketball. And recently, our friends at Inside the Hall, and they work with the University of Michigan Hoops webpage, and they come up with the top 25. It's an annual thing that Alex and Dylan, I believe it's Dylan, put together. And it's really good point to look at the players that are going to be competing against the Hoosiers, as well as where our Indiana Hoosiers rank. As far as the Indiana Hoosiers, Xavier Johnson did not make the top 25 in this list, but he was honorable mention. So he's 26 through 30. And Trace Jackson Davis is going to be in the top 5 at this time. The top 5 has not, the time of recording, the top 5 has not been released where I could find it. So we're going to start right there. Players we believe that are going to be in the top 5 are TJD, Kofi Coburn, Jaden Ivey, EJ Liddell, and Hunter Dickinson of Michigan. Andy, where do you see Trace in there? And how would you put that in order if you were advising Alex and Inside the Hall?
Yeah, I would guess that Coburn is first. And if I had to guess between all those, I'd put Coburn first and Ivy fifth. And then I feel like the 3 in the middle, you probably could put in any order. Looking at the 3-man weave guys, it's interesting. They put out their top 100. Kofi was ranked second for them, and Liddell, Dickinson, and Trace were 5, 6, 7 in order. So whether that's the same order that'll be there, I don't know. You got a guy that runs a Michigan site, a guy that runs an IU site, so maybe they get the bump over Liddell. But I think those 3 would be pretty close. But I think Ivy would be 5th and Kofi first if I had to guess.
Interesting that you put Jaden Ivey 5th. I'm thinking of that list, he's probably the one with the most pro potential. Again, the criteria used would have to be figured out how they're putting him. Is it going to be impact this year? Kofi got exposed in ball screen defense. Yeah, he's a rim protector, but Loyola really took him to task in that game. And I think you're going to see, does he make it up on the offensive side? That would be my question with Kofi. Kofi has outplayed Trace. But Jaden Ivey, I don't like to say it, he's just exploding up everyone's boards as far as the ability. I think he's going to be a surprise top player, unfortunately, for the Boilermakers. But you got 4 post guys there in the top 5. Chad, in looking at the top 5 that haven't been listed, I don't think there's anyone else even close that's going to pop in there. Your thoughts on the order of the top 5 players in the Big Ten?
Coach, I'm just going to take your love for Ivy as you're just a little too close to that city there. So I'll forgive that a little bit there.
I'm not drinking any juice from up here.
They're putting something in the water. There's something in the tap water that's just not right. Even if you're not drinking it while you're in the shower, it's getting in you somehow.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah. No. I've got him as 5. I can't. And then I'm sorry, I've got Trace's first, but I think my list comes more in the sense of when I'm ranking players, yes, their ability, but I also like to look at them as impact to the team and everything. And I give Trace first because he was such a big to come back. And then I put EJ second just because he was leading scorer for them last year, and you expect not much less from that before. And then I agree with you a little bit, Coach, on Kofi. And again, it's the middle ground, so it can be changed around. But I think he got exposed a little bit, and I think a lot of his benefit was him being a 1-2 punch with Io on the outside and everything, and he loses some of that. Obviously, they still have good guard play there, but and then Hunter is just going to get better. Kind of one of the most promising freshmen in the Big Ten last year. So I just expect him to do good things. So that's kind of how I sit with my top 5 there.
And there's different players here, guys. I mean, when you look at it, EJ Liddell can do a few things inside and out. Hunter Dickinson and Trace Jackson are more inside kind of guys. And, then Jaden Ivey's the perimeter that can go out and do things. So for me, it's kind of hard to put these in order. I think, Trace, Kofi, and Hunter Dickinson have to be 1, 2, and 3 in some order for me. And then again, it would be EJ Liddell and Jaden Ivey. So I'd take any one of those on my team. I think you'd be all right. So I think that's an excellent set of five guys that they came up with. So our second part of this segment here is, as you look at this list, is there a player that you think is going to do better than expected and moves up? And is there a player that you think may move down? Chad, I'll throw that to you first. Of the list of 25, maybe you can even include honorable mention. Who do you think is one player on this list that should move up and one that may move down?
I think Harper Jr. has a chance to move up. I'm always impressed in an aggravated sense as to how he plays against us. He always kind of exposes us in the past. His size, his outside shooting, and everything. He's one that I think that can move up on this list a little bit. Geo Baker is one that's always kind of interesting. He's always kind of a playmaker for his team. He could fluctuate both ways, honestly. I feel like with him. Beyond that, geez, I don't know. I defer on as I kind of marinate on it maybe a little bit more. Well, I will say maybe we might see some IU players kiss into the top 25 at that point too. Wouldn't shy away.
That.
Okay.
Who's likely to do that here coming up too? But I agree with that. Andy, a player that you think is likely to move down from the ranking. And again, if you don't know what the rankings are, Inside the Hall has them listed, insidethehall.com. Look that up, and they have some articles and segments, and they've named 6 through 25 on that list.
Yeah, it's interesting. Not to make the complete 3-man weave love fest, but they had a podcast where they went through and kind of talked through feedback they'd gotten about their player list and things they wishes they'd done differently. And there's actually a number of Big Ten guys that get brought up on there for those who've not listened to it. The guy who it really depends a lot on how he's used, and it hurts me even more to talk about like Zach Edey is the guy that they talked a lot about on there, trying to figure out, if he's going to be able, they attempt to try to play him and Travion Williams together, which is would be interesting. He's got a chance to move his way up. I think some of his rankings are tempered a bit based on the fact that you're not sure how much he's going to play. So I think there's, dependent upon how that goes, I think he would be there. I was also tempted to say Dante Scott, but they've got him 11th. I really like him, and I think he opens up a lot of things being the small ball 4 for Maryland. But I think having him ranked 11th is probably fairly high there. So Edey maybe is the guy who stands out a little bit from my perspective that might move up if playing time hits right for him.
What are your guys' thoughts on Curbelo? I think I'm just trying to double check here because I'm not sure how we have him listed, but I think he was 6th in the list from Inside the Hall. That just seems a little bit high for me. Andy, your thoughts on Curbelo? I think he's a nice player, but I'm not sure he's the 6th best player in the Big Ten. That was someone for me that would move down.
Yeah, that's what is hard about a lot of these kind of exercises, because you're trying to project a little bit. Those top 5 guys to a large extent, their role is going to be similar to what it was a year ago, versus he is one that changes entirely without Io. So if he's able to embrace that and take care of the basketball, I think the talent is there to do it. But you are making a leap in some ways for a guy who was pretty inconsistent over the course of his freshman year. So I think that's fair, especially as you look, you look right behind him and you've got a guy like Harper or Travion Williams, guys who have given IU fits, but I think, again, you kind of know what you're going to get from those guys. So Curbelo is the one where the ceiling is fairly high. And I think this is, ranking him 6th is a bit, is kind of banking on that ceiling and being close to where he shakes out in the end.
And let me say that ranking players like this is just unbelievably difficult. One, you're comparing perimeters to post, and and then team success has something to do with this. I think the Nance kid at 15, Pete Nance from Northwestern at 15, might be a little bit high. The Penn State big, John Har at 19, might be a little bit high for me. And again, some of that is team success. You can be really good, but if your team's going to be in the bottom, I think some other impact players, can move up. The one that I thought probably, again, he's been injured a lot is Bohannon, and maybe that's just because he just drops threes on Indiana all the time. But 24th, it's probably because he's injured. I think that's probably a fair thing, but I can see him move up. And then there's a couple freshmen in there that are 22 and 23, and Tyson Walker and Max Christie. If they come as advertised, I think that they may move up as well. So let's go to
this. I thought just to touch on a couple of the guys that you mentioned. Yeah, I thought Hara, or I forget how you say his name, but I was surprised by that one. I mean, I know they got to have somebody be able to step up, but I don't even think he averaged 10 points a game a year ago. I think is a good rebounder, good defender, but that one surprised me a little bit. And Bohannon's another one where we know what he's done in the past, but the supporting cast that he's going to have this year is a lot less than what it was a year ago, and that could go one of two ways. I mean, he either has to step up, and it's kind of him and Keegan Murray who are the two guys there who really need to carry a lot of the load. If he's able to and regain some prior to the injury, then maybe that ranking ends up being low. But yeah, he's a tough one in that regard to try to figure out, just because there's so much has changed around him when you look at what the projections would be for Iowa in general, and do they end up having two guys in the top 25? Maybe they're better than we think they might be, or it's really just those two guys doing everything.
Another thing, Chad, that I have confusion with, and I think I'm just checking here on the list, is when you have transfers, and you have transfers from smaller, good players from smaller conferences. They transfer up to the Big Ten. How are they ranked? So you have a couple of those situations in the top 25. Max Christie was the freshman from Michigan State, but Tyson Walker was a transfer in from where did he transfer in? Coastal Carolina. Was that the one from Coastal Carolina? It doesn't stay here. Northeastern. So you had one from Northeastern, and you had another all-conference player from Coastal Carolina that made the top 25, but Xavier Johnson didn't make it, and he was a double-digit and an assist man in the ACC for Pittsburgh. That is a difficult thing, probably because of the player of the year and the overall stats were maybe a little bit better than Xavier Johnson. But I think that's difficult to judge too, is impact of these transfers, which college basketball has had a lot of.
Yeah, I think you're right with that. And it's just trying to forecast what they did on this team that does X is going to translate to, is X going to move to Y team, and how's that going to fit? And I think Xavier just kind of faulted in that sense that we don't have any game tape yet of Woody and everything. So we can't say exactly what the system is that he's going to plug into. We'd all like to say we now know that we've seen two games and everything like that it's going to be a good thing, and seeing it in person, it is going to be a good thing. It's just forecasting that with a team that hasn't played a full season. It is hard, and I think that's why those other transfers maybe got the edge on our transfers.
And the other one that I thought coming in at number 20, what was interesting here is Eli Brooks with Michigan. I think Michigan's going to be really talented. I thought he had some good action last year, some good play last year. I thought he might be a little bit higher than 20. And going back to the transfer, Michigan had some really good transfer guards last year that really impacted their season and played well. So, that's an interesting model that a lot of teams, including our Indiana Hoosiers, have followed in order to build their roster. So let's talk about IU and the list. I think Trace is accurately in the top 5 wherever he ends up and wherever inside the hall, and Hoops ends up putting Trace. I think that's relatively correct. You can argue between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, any spot. I think he deserves that. Xavier's honorable mention. You can see that. What other players? I'll pose it this way. If Indiana has a successful year and plays closer to their ceiling, which to me is a top 4 or 5 Big Ten, a Sweet 16, a second weekend tournament team, and a top 25 team overall, I think they have to have at least 2 or 3 players on this list if we put it together at the end. So, Andy, Xavier's an honorable mention. Would he be one of those? And if so, who else would you think? 1 more, 2 more? Who has the capability of being a top 25 player where we see it right now without any game action?
Yeah, I think if IU plays well, Xavier Johnson would absolutely be a part of that. I think he would be. It would suggest that he's doing a good job running the show. He's taking care of the basketball. He's getting other guys involved. So I think a solid performance IU would almost certainly be attributable to a strong season from him. I think once you look past that, I think Tamar Bates probably shakes out as perhaps the next most likely, who's not really wasn't on the honorable mention list, but was a 5-star guy, at least on that borderline. So those are the kinds of guys that can come in and have an impact. Had an impact in the games in the Bahamas, so it seems like he's on that may help jumpstart him a little bit. And maybe Miller Kopp is another guy I'd throw in. I certainly don't think 4 are going to make it. I mean, if 4 make it, then great things have happened, and we're all pretty excited. But I think if it ends up being 3, I would probably say Tamar, maybe Miller Kopp really settles into that role, shoots the ball really well, things like that. I just don't know that Race is going to score enough to probably, if I had to guess, we have strong feelings about his importance to the IU team. I just don't know that he's going to put the numbers up that would, kind of vault him onto a list like this.
If we get 4 on the season end top 25, Matt Norlander's cashing a pretty nice betting ticket there at 75 to 1. That's probably the only way that you get 4. So, Chad, your thoughts on the second, third IU player, and who might be a top 25 player if everything breaks the way we want it to for the Hoosiers?
If it breaks the way we want it to, I think it'll easily be two players that we'll get into there. And I have troubles picking between 4. Who of the 4? I mean, I agree with Andy and what he said with Tamar Bates, just from his sheer scoring and skills. Miller Kopp, because of what I've seen just with his leadership and his scoring ability from the outside. He's really going to be a big leader this year and everything like that. So he has the great possibility of being one that pops in there as well. And then Xavier, from everything that we've already said, similar to Miller Kopp, the leadership and running the show. And then is Race. And I think the adding Race in there for the 4, pick 2 out of the 4 for me is again on how I rank these types of lists, and that's impact on the team and everything like that. And I think, like you said, I don't think there'll be big numbers, but I think his effort and the things off the stat sheets that he does is going to be pretty spectacular if IU reaches their ceiling. The numbers won't be great, but the things that he does beyond that are going to be a big reason that IU had that success that we are fictionalizing at this moment.
Yeah. I think Xavier Johnson works his way in regardless of where Indiana finishes. Watching the tape in the Bahamas and how he played, and the only thing that keeps him out is a little bit of up and down play, where he might have some turnovers one game and then go for 15 and 8 assists the next game, but maybe turn it over a little bit too much. If he irons that out and plays consistently, he's just a really talented young man. And I think Kenya Hunter and Mike Woodson have the right mentality to make sure that he's headed in the right direction, whatever the issues were at Pittsburgh between he and the coach at that point. I really see Xavier Johnson. I wasn't sure, guys, until I watched the Bahamas, and I'm pretty sold on Xavier. He's a real solid college guard. And then it's going to the third one. If Indiana gets that Sweet 16, Tamar Bates is the talent. Miller Kopp is the glue with the points and the stats. If he could get into double figures. So now I'm going to throw it to you guys. it can't be one of those four. Who would be the out of the blue IU player that makes this list and surprises everyone? Who has the best chance to come from beyond that top four and maybe make a top 25? Chad, we'll start with you.
Parker Stewart for me. His shooting ability that I saw out there and his aggressiveness on defense and everything, and his effort that he puts out on the court. He would be my next with Rob close by behind.
Andy, you're a surprise top 25 player on the Indiana roster.
Yeah, I was inclined to say Stewart as well, just because I think he's going to have the chance to score well enough, and maybe I'm putting too much stock into numbers on a list like this, but I think that's what drives a lot of it. And I think just based on playing time, if he shoots it as well as it sounds like he was at some point during the offseason, I got some positive comments about his defense in the Bahamas, so I think he would be there. Only other guy that popped into my mind was Jordan Geronimo, but I don't know, with Race kind of playing in front of him, I think for him to get there probably is the result of an injury from somebody else to get enough playing time to do some of that. But certainly rebounded the ball well, shot it well in somewhat limited attempts in the Bahamas. But I think from an athleticism standpoint, he's a guy that in a more wide open system could potentially flourish. So those were the only two guys that came to mind when I said that. So I'll throw him out there, but I would probably pick Stewart over him if you made me.
So we haven't mentioned Race other than the fact that he does a lot of things that helps your team, but maybe doesn't have the stats to get on a list like this. But refresh my memory, Andy. I got to watch these teams again. What's the difference between him and the Murray kid from Iowa? Is it just shooting, athleticism? What? I mean, he's been there and I don't know, maybe it's just because we watch IU a lot more. Is there a huge difference? And that young man is 16th on this list. What am I missing on that? Besides just loving IU.
It's well, there's nothing wrong with that, certainly. With Murray, again, I think there's a lot of possessions to go around that somebody has to use now that Garza is gone and Wieskamp is gone. And I think Murray showed some flashes when he was I believe he was a true freshman last year. I might be wrong about that, but I thought he, did some things well, but didn't have a ton of time to really get in the roster. He wasn't a big enough part of the offense to really get shots. But if you look at what he did when he was in there, his per 40-minute numbers and all that stuff look pretty good. And I think you walk into a situation where offensive team, they're going to get in a lot of shootouts. Somebody has to take shots. He's going to be probably second in usage behind Bohannon, maybe first there. So I think that just kind of becomes a numbers game to a certain extent. Which is not to say he's just putting up empty numbers, that he's not talented, but I do think there's a part of it that he's just going to get more shots because he's probably the first or second option on a team versus Race is probably fourth or fifth at points when he's on the floor.
The stats are going to be in his favor, but they don't play defense in Iowa, and that's what's funny about lists like this is sometimes you just got to go by stats and potential shots and all of that. But until Fran teaches some defense, I'm not too high on Iowa players. But there is one guy who never makes this list from Wisconsin. And we all don't like him the way he plays. But isn't he a top player in the Big Ten? Just, again, a glue guy, or is he more of a Race Thompson and Brad Davidson type guy? Chad, your thoughts on the evil Brad from Wisconsin, and does he have any business sniffing around this list?
No, that's it. No. My mic is being muted now. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I mean, like you said, he's the glue guy. He's the player. He's the Sheehy of that team, of that Wisconsin team. And Sheehy is also a player that would sniff from the outside of lists like this, but he's a glue guy and an annoying guy that you'd want to see in for your team and not to play against. So again, it's a stats thing. It's the same reason Race isn't on, that you don't see him on that.
Andy, besides Davis, is there anyone else that's just like the evil empire? You're glad he's not on this list, or maybe should be on this list from any. I'm not used to the rosters of the other teams yet when this list come out, and being at school, I didn't read up all the rosters to find out who might have been left off. But he comes to mind as someone that just wins whether you like him or not, and he's coming back for a 6th year, but kind of glad he wasn't around this list.
Yeah, I can't really think of anybody. There's just so much movement that I haven't dug into it too deep quite yet. But yeah, I don't. I definitely, as memory serves, I don't think Alex is a big fan of his at all, and I don't know that Dylan would be either. So the deck may have been stacked against him, I think, in that regard. So and he's another one. In all seriousness, he's been an important part of that team, but a lot of what has helped him around him, whether that's helped him to get shots or converted on passes he's made, like those guys are gone. So I think there's just a lot of some Big Ten for as much as guys taking extra years and things like that may have led to a little bit more continuity than normal in certain circumstances. There are a couple of teams in the Big Ten that hit pretty hard with some big losses, and we've talked about a couple of those in Iowa and Wisconsin. So I think it's hard to figure out what he has to take on a more prominent role, and I don't know that that's really what he's suited to do. So I would assume that, plus people's general feelings toward him, the voters in this scenario perhaps may have been the reason he didn't make it.
Hey, he is engaged, I believe, to Indiana legend Tyra Buss.
Yeah,
so I know there's some people booing me in the chat mob for even talking about him and wanting me to be muted because I brought him up. But there is an IU connection there. We all appreciated Tyra's time as an athlete here in the women's program. So we don't have to lighten up on him, Clayton. I'm sorry. Apologize for that. So that'll do it for our conversation on top 25. Check out Inside the Hall. They do a great job of giving us information. And we'll be back with your questions right after this on the Assembly Call. All right, gentlemen, that's pretty good for having that list come out and decide to do that here at the last second. Some good conversation. Sorry, chat mob. I'm getting some anger vibes from the chat mob tonight. It's all right. Very good, very good.
You can handle it. It's all right.
We need to. Yeah, we need. I've been coaching. People said much worse than boo this man and mute the coach. That's polite compared to what I've heard. We should put together like
we got this. If Tyra loves him, can't we? I think
exactly.
I think the answer to that is
no.
For most of us is no. Doesn't mean we like her. Doesn't mean we like her any less. Doesn't diminish in any way all that she brought to the IU women's basketball program. But I don't know that. I'm just not sure people can do that.
I'm not. Alan will never question her commitment on the court, but her choices of lovers, I will always be in question now.
It's not even AC After Dark. It's getting deep here. So okay, if I get impeached,
it might be the first time anybody said the word lovers on the show. Really,
lover,
yeah,
exactly.
I'm almost certain. I'm almost certain of
it. So I'm being impeached by Nick here. I wonder who the Senate is and what the trial's going to be like. I don't have enough money for a lawyer after building this deck I'm putting on the back of my house right now. So
I know the way they can edit audio nowadays, you might be screwed there, Coach. Plenty of drops there and to show in court against you.
Yeah, exactly. It's been nice. Nice. It's all right. You give me my Thursday nights back. I can go on date night on Thursday night again. So there's always a positive.
Here's a palate cleanser then from that for this between the segment. Chat mob chime in on this. So with media days coming out, what is it? 3 players tend to go, or 2?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Obviously Trace is going, but who do you guys think also goes?
Rob,
I would say. I would guess Race would go because I think he's going to be
in the other one.
Captain. Yeah. I would imagine because typically it's captain. So I would I would say those, and maybe swap Rob for Xavier. Maybe I would guess one of those two goes. If I had
It's
to
the third
pick
one that's tough.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. That'd be my guesses.
So I'm hoping that our credentials for Delphi bracketology get approved, so I can go both days and see all the coaches and players, and then I got to drive up to Wisconsin to see some family members that Friday, so I might have to leave early. I hope Indiana's scheduled early on Friday, and I get credentials, and then I'd have to miss Indiana. That would be a bummer, but nonetheless, that's what life's all about. Some decisions: who to impeach and who to peach. Oh, Nick's backtracking now. Just because you're impeached doesn't mean you have to leave. Okay, you're correct. As a social studies teacher, that is very good, Nick. You get an A+ for your civics class there. Oh, this is good stuff. All right. We just have a few questions, so we can knock this out and watch a little football the rest of the way. All right, you guys ready?
Right. Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Hi, this is James Blackman Jr. I never miss an open three, and I never miss an episode of the Assembly Call. Go Hoosiers.
Welcome back to Assembly Call Radio. I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with Andy Bottoms and Chad Schwarzkopf of the Bahamas fame, interview fame. Glad to have you on, Chad. It's now segment 3, and it's time for questions. We'll bring back some subscriber shout-outs and a mediocre question again down the road. But tonight, we're just going to jump right into the questions. And our mailbag questions were submitted via our private IU basketball discussion community, which you can learn more about and join at assemblycall.com/community. That's just been a neat place to meet people and talk some basketball. If you're interested in that, give that a chance at assemblycall.com/community. So here we go with our mailbag. Kevin asks, how has Kenya Hunter been so successful at recruiting? Personality, organization, connections, is what he's accomplished an outlier, and can we expect it to level out over time, or is this just where he's going to be? Chad, I'll throw it to you first. Your thoughts on how Kenya Hunter is so successful?
I think it's the relationships that he can bring. He's able to connect to these kids so well. I mean, look what he was able to do with Tamar Bates. He obviously laid the groundwork with him and kept up with it even after he already committed to another school. And then when that came in flux in any certain way, he was able to step in there and convince him to come to a brand new coaching staff and everything like that. He's just, different people are wired differently in the brain and have those set of skills to know what to say, when to say it, and when not to say anything. And I think Kenya's just kind of wired that way with the smoothness, his knowledge of the sport, and just being able to read these kids and read. It's bad. It's going to sound bad to say, and car salesmen need to say, know what they need to hear, or just know the right way to talk to him. Any interviews or anything we've seen with him, he has that approachability to him. He has that demeanor to him, and he has that mentor feeling to him. I think that kids just gravitate to, and it draws in good players, and what's even better is that, at least to my feelings, it draws in the right type of players that we want to see as Indiana fans. It's not just go out there and sell this kid because he's a ridiculous player, but he's able to read these players and find the right players that are not only good players on the court, but just good young men going on. So I think he can keep it up. And I want to say that's even the recent success that they've had even shows that he maybe be even feeling some more mojo, maybe with having Coach Yah with him too, because we've seen recently, I don't have the names in front of me, but IU has offered up on some number 2 ranked and number 3 ranked and top 10 ranked kids in 2023 and 2024 classes. So obviously it's only building from here.
Andy, your thoughts on Kenya Hunter, why he's had a good run here in the year and a half or so that he's been in Bloomington?
You're pulling a Ryan. You're muted.
So close to getting through the show. I think I agree with what Chad said about the connections. I think you've seen that with Parker Stewart. You've seen it with Xavier Johnson, where he's been able to, Xavier in particular is a guy that, he had kept in touch with a little bit and followed his career and some of those things. So I think that was, I think that's there. And I think his demeanor, even when you listen to him, I haven't had a chance to listen to the AJ Guyton podcast yet, but just seems like a really laid back guy, easy to relate to. Doesn't come on too strong in the process with some of these, but I think just kind of a calming demeanor. I think him and Coach Ya probably in that regard balance each other out pretty well, at least based on what they sound like in interviews. We don't really get a great handle on what they their true recruiting approach is when they're out there doing that. But if you kind of take the bits and pieces that you've been able to see of them, I think they balance each other out pretty well. So I think that probably helps too.
Yeah, and the podcast that came out this week, one of the things I agree, the connections, but he said something, you have to recruit every day. And I thought that was important, whether that's just going back and checking your mail, whether that's, watching a little bit of film every day or checking up on a kid statistically or whatever. It's not something you just do in the off season. I think the good recruiters, block out some time during the season. Yeah, they got to do their scouting reports and their coaching and travel, but they're constantly recruiting, not, traveling to recruit, but they're working on developing their lists and those things on a day-to-day basis. And Kenya just seems to me like he really works hard. And he's about being successful, and he knows that his hard work and success will lead him to better places. And it's not about, the look at me type stuff that sometimes the coaching ego gets to. He's just an impressive person. He's an impressive guy to listen to on the podcast with AJ. It was just a really good podcast. But the last part of that is I don't think it'll level out. I think you're good. You're a good coach. And another thing he said, that he's really working hard not to be known just as a recruiter, that he wants to be known as a good X and O coach and teaching fundamentals. And that's when he's going to be able to get a head coaching job down the road. We hope that's a few years down the road, because we'd like to see him continue to build. But I don't think what he's done is an outlier. I think this staff right now has some good vibe going on it. The next question, Andy, will come to you a little bit. Ken says, any additional information about Noah Clowney's recruitment or any other exciting news about recruiting for that matter? Again, it's awful hard to keep up with. We know that Noah is making some visits, but other than that, that's all I know.
Yeah, I think he's got IU in his top 4. This is still this is about a month ago. I feel like that was there. So certainly in the mix, but I haven't heard anything really since his visit was there. So, as Coach said, you're constantly recruiting, so I'm sure they're keeping in touch with him, but we'll kind of see what happens there. And then otherwise, I know there were a couple offers this week, and I'm not the best at keeping up with some of the recruiting news, but I do know that they made a couple offers this week to some pretty highly ranked guys in future classes. So definitely work is ongoing there, but nothing concrete that I've heard, unless you guys got other stuff to add on that front.
Chad, okay,
no, it was just that Virginia Tech this past weekend, because he just posted pictures of his visit and everything like that. Not quite near the numbers of likes like his Indiana visit yet, but we'll see. And then if you want to dig deeper and be crazy about it, obviously his mom was really excited about the Indiana thing. She's kind of quiet about the Virginia Tech one, so I don't know. Again, if you want to read into things and be like we are as Indiana fans. But yeah, otherwise it's one that we'll just see. I believe that is his last visit, I want to say. I think that makes that he's visited them all. I think he had said that he wants to kind of commit before the school year starts. So hopefully,
Has he
we
been
hear
to
about that.
Alabama?
Maybe that's the last ones he has to do. Maybe I think so. If he finishes one more in Alabama.
That would be the one that I would be concerned about. I think their style of play is intriguing for people. And not that Coach Woodson's style of play isn't, but you've been able to see Musselman, or Musselman. It's not Musselman. Musselman's at Arkansas. It's Oates, right?
Oates, yeah.
At Alabama. I think that's the competition. If I'm looking at those schools, and you have Alabama, Indiana, and Virginia Tech, and who else did he visit? He's from South Carolina,
Florida.
but I don't think
Florida's the other one, I think.
Yeah. Right now, I think Alabama and Indiana would be the two out of that group. Coach White at Florida is a pretty good coach, and their program's pretty interesting, but I don't think it has the vibe that Oates has. And then Woodson with his pro connections, I think that's just speaking volumes so far. So I do think I think he's been to Florida. I think Alabama was his last scheduled one. I may not be correct on that. The other recruiting news is that the open period opened up, and coaches can go to open gyms now here in the state and other things. And I know the coaching staff has been up to Cathedral High School to check on the Booker kid, the 6'10" kid, and some others. And they've been I think they flew down to see Noah Clowney, or were planning to, at least. I know they were up at La Lumiere in LaPorte, my hometown, where Jeremy Fears is being recruited by Indiana. I think Dane Fife was up there watching him. So you can find news of those things filtering around where they're in the gyms. It's an interesting time as a high school coach, because we have guys come in to look at our guys. And it's just fun time to talk and show off your program. So the coaching staff's out there, and that's all that I know recruiting wise. And our last question is from Elbows In, one of the best questioners. We have Jay, who is a mediocre question guy, and he's just mediocre even in person, when you hang out with him. But Elbows In is just a quality question creator in the community. And almost every week, if not one, then multiple questions. But he has an off-topic question today. He said his boss played football for Cincinnati as a starter for 4 years. He's been trash talking all week. I've not been able to come up with any fun office bets for the winner or the loser. Any fun office sports bets you recommend, Chad? Is there anything that you can recommend to Elbows In to kind of wager with this obnoxious Cincinnati boss?
Yeah, I've got a good one, and it does kind of hinge a little bit on if they are going to the office, if he's going to see him in the office, and if him or his boss have to report to the office. It's kind of a play on one of my favorite things that I saw online for a blind date or a date to go out with your wife. So both you and need to give each other $20, or $20 is on the line here. Now, whoever loses, or whoever wins, I should say, whoever wins gets to take that $20 of the losing person and go to Goodwill and buy them an outfit to wear in the office for a whole week. And so
the same outfit, or is it a combo of clothes? Just
it could be whatever combo, using those $20 of a nice leisure suit that he can wear throughout the week, something like that. That's kind of a fun one to do.
Andy, do you know any fun office bets that Elbows In could use with this trash talking boss?
I was trying to think of anything Cincinnati specific. I mean, you could do something with Skyline Chili. You could punish them by having them watch a baseball team managed by David Bell. I mean, there are a lot of
free tickets to the Reds if Indiana wins.
Oh my!
There we go.
These days is legitimate punishment to watch the way they're playing down the stretch. So that may be, if you're really looking to stick it to them, maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know.
Well, bring it to basketball and Coach Woodson. Maybe the loser shaves his eyebrows like Woody did.
I refuse to wager wearing the opposing gear bets. I just, everyone wants me to bet IU Purdue, and if you lose, you got to wear Purdue stuff. No, I'm just not wearing Purdue stuff. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. I'd rather, spend $1 on, something from the 1950s and wear than anything with those colors. Well, I got to wear those colors because our school colors are that, but no Purdue official stuff for me. So I hope elbows in that you're a winner. I hope you get to stick it to that boss of yours. Not so much that you lose your job or anything. We want you to be employed so you can have the internet and watch us on Thursday nights and keep joining the community. We don't want you to lose your source of income, but we do want that boss to lose. So fellas, it's been a good night. I thank you for being here. I thank you for the listeners.
That's it. We're done. No more questions.
So I guess that's going to do it for us on this week's episode of the Assembly Call. If you want to see us do the show live, join us at assemblycall.com on Thursday nights for the live broadcast of our Assembly Call radio recording. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for producing a lot of the music that you hear on the show, and thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again next week or any sooner if anything breaks. Until then,
take it from me, Yogi Ferrell. Keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim. And go Hoosiers.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
You might get beat today, but each day you got to get better.
all right, another successful Thursday evening. Good work, everybody.
Yeah, good stuff. So what's on? Oh, you already said what's on the menu for this week, Coach. So I forgot about that. What time are you guys getting started? They letting people in the lots at 7? Did I see that correctly?
7 o'clock. Well, they're expecting a sellout, so they're opening the lots 7, and they're opening the actual stadium 2 hours before to hopefully not have any backlog of people get into the stadium. So we'll see if they're able to handle sellout crowds. It's been a while, but yeah, breakfast burritos. Joel's making something special. Breakfast combo. We'll be at it again. And
weather's supposed to be good.
Yeah, early in the week they said there's a chance of rain in the morning, and then I just checked today, and I think that rain is now not part of the plan. So that's always a bonus.
I had a second or third cousin that was the starting quarterback for a little bit for Cincinnati. Gunnar Kiel.
Yeah, from Columbus.
Mm-hmm. He's I think his dad and my dad are cousins, or one of his parents and mine, some distant cousin like that.
He started at IU, didn't he? He started at IU and then went to Notre Dame and then to Cincinnati.
Did he ever actually come to IU, or he just committed to IU and then he decommitted or something like that?
Maybe that was it.
Because wasn't Notre Dame involved at some point too? I feel like he was linked at various points to a number of schools, but
yeah, he's a mixture of the family, part of the family that I since I've moved around and stuff hadn't seen in a long time. But their dad has always been big, and then all of his boys and his brothers just shot up. They're big human beings.
No, it should be a good time. I feel good about the football team. I think they're going to win. I really do. And I'm generally a little bit pessimistic here lately. But
what's your scores?
I think it's going to be 24-21. IU.
I don't know. I think IU is going to have to get in the
some FCS
State.
School.
They played Murray State last week. I forget who they played week 1. But yeah, it was Murray State last week. Who actually they were pretty close into the third quarter.
It was
and
then
tied at halftime. They just put it on them late. But
big time. Yeah, they played Miami of Ohio the first week, 14-49, and then Murray State 7-42.
Yeah, but it was 7-7. I think
it was 7-7 into the third quarter.
Wow.
So
if they can keep the big play, I hear their quarterback likes to throw deep and has been successful with the deep ball. I read that today. If they can contain, he struggles in the mid range, so it's either a dump off to a running back or a pass to the flat or deep. If you can cover that and tackle, I think the defense is IU's calling card, and then I think we'll hit some plays. I think Penix is ready to bust out. So.
I hope you are correct.
Well, that's what I'm believing until about 4 o'clock Saturday, and then we'll just go from there. Anything else on your minds, gentlemen, before we call it an evening?
No, I'm.
Oh,
Ryan's
I
in
wanted to
Italy.
bring. Oh, hold on, I did want to bring up one thing real quick. What did you guys think of the Indignia, and how are we pronouncing it? Indignia, the misspelled Indiana.
Yeah, Inidia or whatever it showed up.
Nid-
Yeah,
Yeah. In India.
The Cincinnati team or fans are selling Beat and India shirts and everything.
Yeah.
And then Purdue's hopping on the coattails of that and trying to put one on us. But I think it's awesome. I want an Indiana shirt that says that. Like I think it's hilarious.
yeah. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably the. I mean, that wasn't in the top 15 things that were disappointing about that game for me. So
Yeah,
I've kind of forgotten about it already. There were so many other bad things to focus on that was kind of a drop in the bucket at that point.
I think their shirts.
You know,
on
if
the
it
front.
happened to someone we were playing, we'd be just as, ornery with shirts like that. So,
Oh yeah. Well, and I don't fault them for doing that, but I always think it's funny when you do shirts like that. You need to do it with the sense that it's getting a rise out of the team you're making fun of. And to me, this doesn't get a rise out of us. It's more we think it's funny too.
here's something funny. I forget, it was on Twitter or something. I think I don't know who found it, but some Cincinnati fan was talking to other Cincinnati fans on social media about taking over a parking lot. And it's like the one outlet parking lot that hardly anyone ever uses. And so I think they're all headed towards some bell tower parking lot over by the soccer stadium. And they're thinking they're going to take over. Well, hell, no one's there. I mean, they're all around the stadium. So go ahead, take that over. Those are good times. Well, I hope there's a lot of sad Bearcats walking by the tailgate Saturday afternoon.
Yep. Let's hope
How's
so.
the soccer going, Andy?
It was good. They played tonight. They tied, almost scored a goal in the last 30 seconds to win it. Girl just hit an absolute laser that hit off the crossbar. So kind of bummed they couldn't get one in the net toward the end, but they really came on strong late. So it was a good performance. They won earlier in the week and tied tonight. So they're playing.
How
well.
old? What age group?
She's a freshman in high school, so they're
okay.
It's their JV team.
Nice.
She enjoying it.
As I say, that's fun to coach. It's not bunchy ball anymore. There's some skills and everything to coach.
Yeah,
plays.
Yeah. So no, it's good. But no, she's enjoying it. They got a really good group, so they're fun to watch. But they're off this weekend. There's homecoming, so they don't play on Saturday, and then the team they're supposed to play next week doesn't have a JV team, so they got a little bit of a mid-season rest, which probably isn't the worst thing in the world either. So,
boy, and we won't spend a lot of time on this, but it's sad the numbers of young people not participating in athletics. Our sizes of programs are down. Our basketball program's not at Western. But at Delphi, where I teach, our numbers are real low in a lot of areas, and I hope that turns back at some point. But that's been a trend in the last 5 or 6 years where there's just not a lot of numbers anymore. Not teams without JV teams without freshman teams in some sports, and it used to be you had to almost make cuts for some of those because the numbers were so high, but.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix around here. There's some that have 3 teams. There's some that only have 2, and then apparently this one's only got 1. So,
all right, gentlemen, I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you, Chat Mob. We'll see anyone Saturday, and we'll see everyone back next Thursday for the show. Thank you for being here. We'll see.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chad. All right, see you guys.